where do board searches actually happen? How could I get noticed? Is it through executive search firms, private networks, informal recommendations? Tell us about that, please.
Great question. I love it, and I'm happy to answer this. So, if you asked me this question 20 years ago, I'd have a much different answer than I'm going to give you right now.
Hmm.
So, a higher and higher percentage of board appointments in today's modern board appointment world or environment, they're not necessarily coming through search and placement organizations. And it's part of the reason that we dedicate the last two sessions, session 11 and 12 in our course, to talk about what we call establishing your authority and successfully marketing yourself. And I will tell you that LinkedIn has become LinkedIn and another database called Blue Steps, which most of the organizations out there today that are doing searches are going to Blue Steps. That's kind of the driver in the back end, except for some private organizations like an ExecuNet and those where you have your membership. Know that you don't have to rely on just one area, I'll say, to find these opportunities. So the number of roles, of those 9 or 10 roles that come my way for consideration on a yearly basis, all of them except for one, typically yearly, come through LinkedIn, believe it or not. Because as I mentioned earlier, boards now are taking the end-to-end appointment process more so into the back into the nominating committee. So they're responsible. They're looking for outlets to find these candidates. And to further answer and make sure I'm answering this question all the way, in something we call establishing your authority, if we go back to how you package yourself, your major and your three minors, you want to make sure you're creating content that's searchable, that is going to very easily establish you as an expert. It doesn't have to be in the board space or as a committee member, but expertise of an area that you can very easily make the correlation back to an expertise area of where you would serve on a board. This is how these searches are being done today. And AI is totally changing this again. It's for another Tony, that's probably for another webinar we could do in the future about how AI is changing the whole search function globally right now. But just know that having a strategy of a mix of the more formal and historical channels of search and placement, yes, you can have those. I typically recommend no more than 25% of your effort should go into that. The remaining 75% you can control through inbound content marketing and through, again, what we call establishing your authority in a way of successfully marketing yourself. You
Mhm.
can draw opportunities to you. It's where some of the most coveted and most highly compensated board roles are being landed today, not through placement organizations, but through your own efforts. And it doesn't have to be a ton of effort to do this. We
So
show
it
you, of
seems
course, how to do that.
absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned because I was going to underscore that. I know you show that in your course, which is fabulous. I imagine as well you would cover what a board-focused LinkedIn profile may need to look like because you mentioned that's a prime avenue for board directors to be discovered.
That's correct. And one of the things to say is once you've put the effort into creating your proper board documents, you know kind of exactly what you're going to pull from that and place into your LinkedIn. Some good examples of this at a high level are people have way too much content on LinkedIn. Where as it relates to their title and the years they work somewhere, and then you expand upon the summary of all the things they accomplished. One of the things you have to remember when you're pitching for roles or going after roles in the C level or the board level, you have to know you've already arrived. The more you try to sell me, the less highly I look upon your submission. So if you look, for example, at my LinkedIn, I list the title, the company, and the committees I served on, period. That's it. If it was C-level positions, maybe a short 1 or 2 lines of the description. Less is more as it relates to how you package yourself, but you want to be very strategic and have a plan for this. This is why we say if you do your board documents correctly, a lot of that you can convey over into your LinkedIn profile, inclusive of your major and your minors, which become your subject line.